Hi everyone. In today's lecture, we will continue talking about NLP and also delve into the details into ChatGPT, which is a heated, popular concept recently. You might have heard that Microsoft invested $10 billion into ChatGPT. You may also have tried ChatGPT on OpenAI's website for some tasks, such as rephrasing your paperwork or ask it for some questions. There are also some debates around ChatGPT in academia about whether we can use the ChatGPT in the research. And some journals and universities have already banned the use of ChatGPT. So I think this can be quite interesting topic to look into and discuss. First of all, let's look at the breakthroughs in NLP history. Here is a timeline starting from 1950s, symbolic NLP, until in 2022, the proposal of ChatGPT. From 1950s to 1990s, the NLP is still symbolic, meaning that at that time, it's basically rule-based. So the chatbot can only mimic human conversation using the predefined rules. And out of that scope, it cannot deal with the conversations quite well. Later in 1990s till 2010s, we have the statistical NLP. The statistics-based methods like bag of words and n-grams. Let me explain to you what is bag of words. We actually already introduced the dictionary or word list in our last week's lecture, and it's quite similar concepts because the bag of words means we just use the word list to count the frequency of the words in a piece of document or paragraph or sentence, but we ignore the context of the words. So we can equivalent look at the bag of words approach and the dictionary approach equivalently. So it's just like we put the keywords into a bag. We don't have the relationship or order between the words. And we can feed the text into the machine using the bag of words to analyze the frequency of each word in the paragraph in the text. And in 1980s, there is a huge breakthrough because we have the neural networks. The neural network or artificial neural network actually mimic the human's brain. Basically, we have these nodes which represents the neuron, and we have different layers consisting of the nodes. There are generally three types of layer: one input layer, one output layer, and one or more hidden layers. The input layer consists of the predictors, the variables we use to make predictions. And the hidden layers contains the parameters of the model. And the output layer contains the outcome variables we are trying to predict. If the hidden layer is more than one, we call this a deep neural network or deep learning. So this is the basic representation of neural network. And in 1980s, in NLP domain, the recurrent neural network is one kind of artificial neural network where the connections between nodes can create a cycle to allow the output from one node to affect the subsequent input to the same node. So compared with the basic neural network, we add this line back to the previous node. This allows the neural network to process not only the single data points, but also the entire sequences of data. So before, the neural network may just be able to analyze images, but now with the recurrent network, it can analyze sequential data such as speech or videos. So at this stage, the NLP can deal with tasks like handwriting recognition or speech recognition. In 1997, researchers proposed a more advanced recurrent neural network called long short-term memory network. The name refers to the analogy that a standard RNN has both long-term memory and short-term memory. Because one problem of RNN is that it can forget some long-term dependencies as time goes by. So long short-term memory network was proposed to address this problem. Then in 2010s, we have the deep learning revolution thanks to the popularity of internet, the increase of data, and the increase in the processing power. These conditions allows the RNN to outperform statistical methods. Prior to 2010s, the neural network actually had some difficulty in its advancement because we don't have enough data to train the model and we lack the processing power. And if you remember, we talked about this before, that compared with statistical model, most of the machine learning models require big data or huge data to train a decent model. So that is the limitation for neural network research before, but now it's good because we have enough data and also the computational power. And based on the deep learning revolution, there an important concept in NLP was introduced in 2014 called the attention mechanism. Basically, it is a technique designed to mimic the cognitive attention of human beings. The motivation is that the network should devote some focus to the small but important parts of the data. Because the human have limited attention, so this attention mechanism mimic the human beings by enhancing some part of the input data while diminishes the other part. If you look at this figure, this representation of the attention mechanism, I use the red lines, thick red lines, to represent the more important information link. So this also means more weights between the nodes. And also notice that the attention mechanism use the soft weights rather than the fixed weights, meaning that the weights can change over time. This is also more realistic and more close to what it is in humans' brain. And then in 2017, the Google Brain, Google AI team proposed the transformers, which is a deep learning model that adopts the mechanism of attention. It uses different weighting to weight the significance of each part of the input data. and it is primarily used now in NLP and computer vision. Like recurrent neural networks, the transformers are also designed to process sequential data, such as natural language or images or videos. And thus, it has applications toward tasks like translation, text summarization, computer vision tasks, etc. Here, I tried to find a simple representation, but it's still too technical, so let's just skip this. But remember that the transformer is still a very advanced NLP model, and it is the antecedent of the GPT, the Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So the T in Chat GPT is the transformer. Okay, so let's look at the birth of ChatGPT. It starts from the transformer proposed by Google in 2017, and then OpenAI proposed several models of GPT. The GPT-1 was proposed in 2018. This is a semi-supervised learning method with 1.5 billion parameters, so it is quite big model. But it's astonishing that 1 year later, the GPT-2 has 10 times more parameters than GPT-1. And it should be noted that the GPT-2 is able to accomplish multitasks. And 1 year later, OpenAI proposed the GPT-3, which is 100 times bigger than GPT-2, with 175 billion parameters. So you can imagine how much computational power and how much it will cost for OpenAI to train the model. And finally, in 2022, November, OpenAI proposed the ChatGPT, and it is actually based on the GPT 3.5 version. So it is in nature an NLP model, a language model trained on huge textual data using machine learning algorithm. And here, the machine algorithm that OpenAI is using is called reinforcement learning from human feedback. I didn't introduce reinforcement learning before. We only learned about the supervised, unsupervised, and semi-supervised learning. Reinforcement learning was proposed more recently, and it is one kind of machine learning that learns from the success and failure. So the algorithm can reward the desired behaviors of the bot and punish the undesired one until it reaches the optimization. For example, the AlphaGo was trained using the reinforcement learning. It can learn from the games it succeeded or losses. So in general, the reinforcement learning algorithms can perceive and interpret the environment, take actions, and learn through the trials and errors. Another component of RLHF is the human feedback. So this is innovative because previously the machine learning models was directly trained from the data, but here we can add the human back to the reinforcement model. So the humans are hired to give the reward or punishment to the reward model or reinforcement learning model. And the advantage of this reinforcement learning from human feedback is that the model can align the output of AI models with humans' common sense, need, and values. So now we already have basic understanding of the natural language model, the Chat GPT. So let's discuss its goods and bads. For me, I think ChatGPT at least have some value and prospects. It is a huge breakthrough in NLP history because it can understand the logic, considering the context, and it can chat with users in a way very similar to human beings. And this was not achieved by any models before. And the ChatGPT has many useful applications. For example, it can be used to generate codes automatically. So even though the users or the researchers don't have coding experience, they can still try to generate some codes with the help of ChatGPT. And also, we can ask it to explain the codes for us. And maybe the most common application of ChatGPT is use it to answer your questions and solve some math problems or other problems. We can also use the tool to write articles or generate music or other contents. It is also useful to translate the texts or rephrase the papers, summarize the information, and give suggestions. I think ChatGPT has a wide business prospect. It can be used for decision making, customer service, AI content generating, and education, family accompany, etc. And note that currently the ChatGPT just known from the public domain knowledge on the internet. So it's not industry specific or client specific. But in the future, I think companies can propose customized products more specific to their customers by training the model with industry-specific or customer-specific data. And I also expect that there can be a ChatGPT ecology. For example, the Microsoft is proposing to combine the ChatGPT with its Office software. So we can expect that we will have Chat PDF, Chat Excel, etc. So in the future, I think we will be able to just give the ChatGPT, give the bot some natural language comments, and it will execute the codes to fill into the to execute the Excel or analyze the PDF according to our natural language commands. Here is the website of OpenAI ChatGPT. According to their own description, the ChatGPT can interact with humans in a conversational way. The dialogue format makes it possible to answer follow-up questions, admit its mistakes, challenge incorrect premises, and reject inappropriate requests. OpenAI gave us some examples to chat with the bot and also list its capabilities and limitations. So it says that the ChatGPT can remember the user's conversation before, allow the user to provide follow-up corrections, and it is trained to decline inappropriate requests. However, there are some limitations. The ChatGPT may occasionally generate incorrect information or produce harmful instructions or biased content. It is also trained based on limited data before 2021. So I want to discuss the potential concerns of ChatGPT here in detail. The first concern is the technical limitations. This was not mentioned by the OpenAI, But we know that the ChatGPT can generate wrong answers because it is a probabilistic model that fill in words with highest likelihood rather than the correct words. So as a probabilistic model, it pursues the diversity and talking like humans, but not the truth. In addition, garbage in, garbage out, the training data can have lies and outdated knowledge. So sometimes the bot trained on this data can talk nonsense seriously and the logic in a logic way. But this can be detrimental or even more detrimental because it can mislead the users and spread the misconceptions. It's especially detrimental to students and academic research. So we need to be very careful when we use the ChatGPT to obtain the knowledge. And also, as any other machine learning models, the ChatGPT model can also have overfitting issue, meaning that the model may fit the training dataset so well that it may not be good when applied to the new dataset. Remember, we learned the overfitting and underfitting issue of machine learning models before in our machine learning session. So one example of the overfitting is that the training data can influence the writing style of ChatGPT. You may find that the bot tend to write answers using long sentences. It's wordy and it can use words and phrases repetitively. And that can be due to the training data, the quality of the training data. In addition to the technical limitations, there can be high costs related to the ChatGPT. One of the costs is the development cost, because as we mentioned, the GPT-3 is quite huge model with so many parameters and so much data. It can cost a lot to train the model for once. It's estimated that it cost OpenAI $12 million in total to train the ChatGPT. So it's also costly for other companies to replicate the model. And another cost is the use cost for enterprises. There can be computing cost for each round of chatting, and it's natural to expect that the OpenAI may have to charge the users in the future, and also for the enterprises that use OpenAI in their operation, for example, for customer service, it's likely that they will incur high amounts of relevant fees. So we talked about the costs and the technical limitations. I think another big concern is the ethic. We know that the ChatGPT learns a large amount of textual data, which can include lies, prejudice, and outdated knowledge. And in the course of training themselves on vast amounts of online text, the model might have picked up biased or hateful language, including racism and sexism, so it can generate wrong answers and even statements with racial and sexual bias. And there can be potential abuses of it. For example, the misinformation, spam, phishing, fraudulent academic essay writing. And nowadays, many journals and universities ban the ChatGPT. But hopefully, I find that these days, some companies have already started developing anti-AI monitoring software. One example is the Turnitin. It announced to develop such software since 2020 and plans to issue the software in 2023. So we can expect that in the near future, we can have some tools to detect the Chat GPT generated content. Yeah, some of you might be curious how to detect the AI because the generation of the expression is so random, and how can it be detected? According to the researchers, the language of the bots is still quite different from humans' language in many aspects. One example is the GPT-0, which is already developed tool to detect AI-generated content. This software is developed by the Princeton students, and they are trying to detect the AI language based on some aspects that can distinguish the bots from human. So you can look into this website if you are interested. And finally, OpenAI is also taking action by experimenting with targeted filters to minimize some unhealthy content. So we've already talked about the ChatGPT in general. We know its history, its working mechanism, its pros and cons. So to conclude, I think for us, we should keep up with the time and make use of the technology, but we should also keep in mind that it is just an unreliable tool. We can use it to help us improve the efficiency and obtain some inspiration, but we should never over-rely on it. We need to think by ourselves and also treat it maybe like an assistant that can make some mistake. Okay, so next let's discuss the use of ChatGPT in accounting and auditing. Since this is AI class with a focus on accounting and auditing. I identified 3 kinds of use cases of ChatGPT in accounting and auditing. It can be used to automate accounting tasks, analyze financial data, and give accountants or auditors advice. So for the automation of accounting tasks, we can use ChatGPT, ask it to automate the production of financial reports by giving it some facts we found and the data. So we can also ask it to generate the template of the financial report, or ask it to generate a paragraph or the whole report. It can also be used to automate some commonplace jobs like data entry. Here I offer you one example. I asked the ChatGPT to generate a journal entry for recording the sale of a car. And the result is decent, I think. It gives us different situations as well as the journal entries and the explanation of the journal entry. So for this functionality, I think it's quite useful. It can help increase the productivity, free the accountants from tedious tasks, and to concentrate on more valuable tasks. It can speed up the process and minimize the possible mistakes during the manual data entering and calculation. The second use case is data analysis. We can ask ChatGPT to identify trends or patterns in financial data. For example, to find variations in income or spending over time, or to spot unexpected transactions that might worth further investigation. It can also help identify risky areas and opportunities and produce some predictions for example, income and expenses, and analyze the market trends and circumstances. But currently, it cannot be used for analyzing more recent data due to the limitation of the training data. It ends in 2021. A third use case is to generate advice for the practitioners. For example, the ChatGPT can create explanations of tax laws and make suggestions on how to adhere to their requirements. It can also be potential to assist accountants by returning relevant accounting rules or answering some questions. I saw an article online testing the ChatGPT using the CPA exam questions, and they said that the ChatGPT did a quite good job in the exam. So at least it has some use. It can offer some assistance for accountants and auditors. But still, we need to be careful when we utilize the results from ChatGPT. Okay, so here are still some concerns, especially in accounting and auditing. The first concern is the source. The ChatGPT produces responses based on the training data, but there is no way of verifying the data source of the training data to confirm it is reputable and it can be relied on. Previously, we basically use the search engines like Google to find information. And the search engines at least provide us with the sources of the information so that the users can decide which ones to use. However, the ChatGPT doesn't offer the sources, and I think a lot of people may just directly rely on what ChatGPT says about various topics without querying the data source. So this can be one big concern, especially when we use it in our accounting or auditing work. Another concern is, as we discussed before, the dataset is untimely. It's trained on data before 2021, so any attempts to ask about more current activities or areas where legal frameworks have changed, or some more recent financial market news, then the ChatGPT might just generate incorrect answers. So we need to be careful and consider the time when we use the ChatGPT. A third concern is the solutions or answers generated might be too general to be useful. Because it was trained on the public dataset, so it is not able to deliver contextual, personal advice in a way that is that a trusted accountant can offer. It can also cannot design the audit procedures that are relevant to specific client or business context. And finally, the ethical issues is especially concerned for accountants and auditors. It's crucial to use the ChatGPT appropriately and make sure that it's being used in accordance with the moral and professional norms. Okay, to summarize, I think there are some lessons for us accounting professionals from the ChatGPT. First of all, it's good that we be open-minded and embrace the technology opportunities. We should believe that AI will not steal our jobs if we know how to make the best of it and try to keep up with the time. And we should understand what the technology, what the AI can do for you, for your job and your industry. Then decide where to focus your effort, what kind of new skills to develop to get ahead. We should also be careful. Don't blindly trust a bot, because the bot can make mistakes, and that is not scarcely. So it's better to treat it as a tool rather than a reliable source. And finally, we should be careful when we upload our data or our client's data. Yeah, that's all about the NLP session and the discussion around the ChatGPT. Thank you for your attention.